Things just took a massive turn for this Toronto Raptors team, as since the draft lottery, all eyes were on Khaman Maluach as being the Raptors' top selection in this year's NBA draft. But over the past 24 hours, there has been a major shift in terms of expectations, in terms of reports and comments coming out about the Raptors pick at number 9 overall. So we're going to break down what the new updates are, what we can now expect from this Raptors team if they end up keeping this number 9 overall selection, and why Noa Essengue, who's a guy that is very back and forth by a lot of Toronto Raptors fans, is the expected selection for this Toronto Raptors team. So lots of stuff to break down, folks. We are so close to 38,000 subscribers, just 41 away. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss a single thing happening with this Toronto Raptors team as we enter a crucial offseason during this, that could change the course of Raptors history, given how open the Eastern Conference is and everything that's going on. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. It's free, but let's dive into it because there's a lot of stuff going on right now regarding Noa Essengue and the Toronto Raptors because, again, we know Khaman Maluach made a ton of videos of the expected guy, the center position, but it all kind of started when assistant GM to Masai Ujiri, Dan Tolzman, talked about the prospect of getting a center and saying, hey, we're going to take the best player available. It's really tough for centers to come in and have an immediate impact given how long it takes for them to develop, and the Raptors are trying to compete right away. So given that fact, it's not they're going to vie away from a center, but they are going to take the best player available, the best fit. And Masai Ujiri said this earlier in the offseason, but it was kind of doubled down a bit more emphatically over the past couple days from Dan Tolzman. So that led to some buzz, and then along with some quotes that came out. So Noa Essengue came out and directly said that I'd say, so when in terms of his comparisons, his comparable players, he came out and said that I'd say guys like Pascal Siakam, Scottie Barnes, and Kawhi Leonard, they can really do everything on the court, defense, dribble, and shooting. So again, the French wing came out and basically said that in terms of his comparables, and if you're not putting the pieces together, right, if you're not rubbing the tea leaves and all, those are all either current or former Toronto Raptors. Scottie Barnes, and then NBA champion Pascal Siakam, NBA champion Kawhi Leonard. Two of the very dynamic players in Raptors history. So it's weird that list of names is thrown out there, especially Scottie Barnes, right from the jump. And then on top of it, there's this report that came out that makes things very, very interesting. Essentially, news came out that Essenge's pre-draft officially started on Sunday when he departed departed Ulm following Game 3 of the German League playoffs, landing in Toronto for a secret private workout before flying to New York City. So this is very, very interesting, especially in combination with these comments, as this is the only team that Essengue had worked out with. So there is a lot of speculation after this stuff that's going on here right now that Essengue was given a promise by the Toronto Raptors in regards to him making comments like this about him being that number 9 overall selection. And then on top of it, because I've been showing screenshots of all the drafts that I could put together in pretty well all these videos over the past week. And each and every single time, it's Khaman Maluach coming to the Toronto Raptors. However, if you look at the mock drafts today, with the exception of Tankathon, they have taken a major shift. So this one firstly came from Doug Smith, who of course is an insider for the Toronto Raptors and been covering the team for a long time. He has Essengue at number 9 overall selection, being selected over Khaman Maluach. So it's not even Maluach getting picked before us; it is Essengue being the selection. And he came out and said, the big need is a backup center, but they can be found elsewhere, as personnel guru Dan Tolzman said this week. So it wouldn't be very Raptor-y, long, young, developing North American player fit, right now with the Toronto Pictures. Of course, non-North American player. Basically, I can't read right now, but he said that Noa Essengue is a guy that's fit. Another mock draft has Maluach going before us to the Brooklyn Nets, and then Essengue landing with the Toronto Raptors at the number 9 overall selection. So that's coming from CBS Sports. And then also from Sports Illustrated, we have this list coming out with Essengue landing at the Toronto Raptors. So I've not seen, a list of mock drafts that have changed such drastically over the past 24 hours because they've all read Khaman Maluach for a very, very long time. They have been, they've been straight up coming out and saying, hey, Maluach is that guy to be expected with the Toronto Raptors. And that just shifted really, really fast. Now, what do we think of this? Because Noa Essengue is a very interesting basketball player. So 6'9", 6'10", the heights and all that range vary in terms of, like international prospects, but Essengue is a guy, he's very young, he has a long wingspan, and if we look at his stats, they're not extremely overwhelming in terms of how impactful he could specifically be, because the concerning stat out here is a 27% three-point shooter. Now, playing in the EuroLeague, it's a little bit different. He's a solid free throw shooter, not phenomenal, but 71% does lead to some positives out there on that end of the court, but 11 points per game, 5 rebounds, 1.2 assists, and a guy that, 5 blocks per night, 1 steal, has a lot of defensive upside. He has a long wingspan and is one of those raw young talents that could come out and just really come into their own in the NBA and take the league by storm. It'll probably take some time in regards to development, but definitely a player that is very, very exciting on that line. And if we take a look at his strengths and weaknesses in terms of what people are saying about him as a basketball player, he's a very interesting guy on that end of the floor as well. So basically, of course, he has elite size, athletic tools. He's a switchable, multi-positional defender. He's a high motor and rebounding effort, and productive cutter and transition scorer. So you look at him out there on the basketball court. This is a solely, you are selecting this man based off his raw skill set in terms of his aggressiveness, his intensity, his long arms, his switchability, and everything that can come into its own. And then you try to develop the rest. You try to really take a look at those things, and you look at the NBA Finals and you see how aggressive it was, how intense it was, how important it is to have those switchable two-way defenders out there on the court at all times. You see all those tools and you say, hey, there's not a lot of guys on planet Earth that have that upside to really be able to play at that level and be a valuable impact player at that rate. But of course, you need those basketball skills as well. You need those things to really come to their own, develop on that note as well, essentially. And that's where his weaknesses come in. He's limited shot creation off the dribble. He's an inconsistent long-range jump shooter. We saw that in his three-point shooting percentage being around 27%. Raw playmaking and decision-making, so, he has to improve, in those areas of the court and can be over-aggressive at times, which honestly, for a young player, I don't mind. I don't mind young players being a little bit too intense, a little bit too overzealous, rather than lethargic and, out there on the court where you just have to light a fire underneath them. So Essengue is a guy that, I like as a draft prospect. He's the type of guy Masai Ujiri would certainly be interested in because, it's boom or bust. It has the high potential and seems like a high character dude, playing intensity. People like him. He's talking about the Raptors. Masai's giving him feeding them these quotes. Some people are speculating in terms of Scottie, Pascal Siakam, Kawhi Leonard. You're not even naming any French folks, which is crazy. It's all the I guess Pascal speaks French, but I digress. It's seems like a likable dude. Seems like a guy that does have some high upside, but if the Raptors are trying to win now, if they are trying to get back into the mix next season, Essengue I don't think has the highest potential to be an impact player just 1 year removed. Now, I could be completely wrong. He could be an impactful, 3-and-D guy right away if he improves that jump shot, but is definitely a player that has more of those project type of prospects rather than your surefire ready to go right from the jump. And that's probably the best thing the Toronto Raptors to have as their philosophy. This team was, the 12th seed, the 13th seed, wherever we were last season. And as optimistic as I am and how open the Eastern Conference is next season, we have to be realistic. We don't want to rush the rebuild and take a guy we don't think is going to have the best long-term upside and, sacrifice this number 9 overall selection. Now, given the fact that he has been sporadically placed all across the board, it seems like he's really jumped up as of late. Teams like the Thunder have expressed interest in Essengue in terms of different reports and stuff. This is a guy that you probably have to take the number 9 overall selection, but it's a little bit of a risk, especially for a guy that, weeks ago probably wasn't expected at all to really jump into the top 10. It's a classic Masai prospect. And even though, and I got graphics popping up here like this, but even though Masai has had some misses in the past, some people are comparing this to the Bruno Caboclo selection and stuff. I still look at this draft selection. I trust Masai Ujiri in regards to whatever he does in the NBA draft. There have been some questions about contract extensions. There has been some questions about, certain trades at times for Masai, but NBA draft, Masai's still, a scout at heart. He's still probably the best talent finder, talent evaluator in the NBA draft across the entire league. And I think last season is a representation of that. So, if the Toronto Raptors keep the number 9 overall pick, expect Noa Essengue to be that selection. But of course, don't be surprised if, things take another turn over the next 8 hours, and we'll be here to cover it all. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. You guys best take as far. Subscribe to the channel. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.